How's it going, everyone? My name is Andrew Pays, and welcome to my brand new series here on my YouTube channel. Before now, I've mostly been doing videos that have recapped my Birds on the Bat 162 game franchise that I stream over at twitch.tv/AndrewPays. But this time I'm doing something a little bit different. The content you are about to see is content that is not going to be shown on my Twitch channel at all. It is going to be an exclusive to my YouTube channel. And it is going to be something that is going to be a lot of fun. It's still going to involve the community creative players that people have been helping to create and improve over on my Twitch channel. So you'll still see, if you've created a player, you'll still see those players coming through. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to get going. And without further ado, let's introduce what this series is going to be. So if you guys follow my Twitter, you might have noticed that I posted this picture with all of the details of this YouTube series hidden behind those question marks here. Well, this video is going to be the full series reveal and team reveal. And without further ado, let's reveal the title of the series, and that is going to be the Fantasy Franchise. Now, if y'all were here from the very beginning when I started streaming on Twitch back in October, the first thing I ever did was a fantasy franchise challenge where I had the CPU randomly draft my team through the fantasy draft option, and my goal was to win the World Series with that team I was given. I never finished that series. I started playing, getting into Madden because football season came around, and I never did finish that series. But I've got a brand new fantasy franchise series, and not only that, the community created players are going to be in this as well. But that means that all of y'all that have created community created players, you guys are not going to be on the team that you originally chose your community created player to be on. Well, actually, that's not true. Some of them will be on the same team because they got randomly drafted there, but not for majority of the players that are here. You guys are not going to be on the original team that you're on. So if you want to know what team you got drafted on, be sure to check the roster link in the description. I have laid out all of the community created players, what team they ended up being drafted on, and what level that the CPU put them at. Because actually there are now more players at the Major League level in this series than there is on my 162 game series on my Twitch channel. So make sure you click the link, look for your player, see where you got drafted, and if you are at the Major League level, because some of you guys might be in the majors for the first time, so definitely check that out. Now here's the main question. What team am I? And this is for this series, I didn't want to be the Cardinals again. I wanted to do something different, something unique. It's a fantasy franchise. I didn't want to make things as realistic as possible, just fit it to my fandom. So I came up with a way to determine what team was going to be the team that I use. And I wasn't just going to do like pick a random number between 1 and 30 and do a number generator. That's not as fun. So I decided a brand new way of doing it. So all of y'all that have been creating your custom community creative players had a chance to put either yourself or a player that you would like to see go in there. Like a couple people did like the offspring of famous major leaguers. Like we have Trevor Hoffman Jr. We have Shane Larkin if he went baseball, that kind of thing. Well, I decided that I'd like to join in on the fun. Now, I wasn't going to make myself a OP 99 overall player. I put myself near the top of the prospect list. As you can see right here, I'm a 76 overall, a potential first baseman. Ignore the fact that I'm on the Springfield Cardinals, the AA affiliate of the Cardinals. That has nothing to do here. I had to add him to the roster somehow, so I put him on the Cardinals. So what I decided to do was, since I put my player in on the roster, along with all of the other community creative players, my player was going to be drafted in a random position just like everyone else. I might not end up back on the Cardinals. I'm going to end up somewhere else. So my decision was that I was going to take whatever team my player ended up on. That way I'm not adding myself later to a team to give them an advantage because I wasn't in the draft pool. So I add in another 76 overall, essentially being a last round pick at 76 overall, a potential. That just wouldn't be fair. So I decided to let the draft run, find the team that I got drafted on, and that's the team I'm going to take over. So without further ado, the team that I will be controlling in this fantasy franchise is the San Francisco Giants. Now, honestly, I'm a little bit excited about this because outside of St. Louis and Busch Stadium, because obviously I'm biased. I'm a Cardinals fan. I think Busch Stadium is beautiful. I think Oracle Park in San Francisco is one of my top 5 favorite stadiums across Major League Baseball. So to be able to play an entire season where that is my home field, I'm actually really excited about it. It's a very unique field. It's a very beautiful ballpark. I love the wall in right field because it adds like a unique feature that not a lot of stadiums have. I like the stadiums that have their own quirk that no other stadium has. Like you got the Red Sox is completely different than any other stadium you'll ever see. You've got San Francisco with McCovey Cove and the right field brick wall. You have things like Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City with the fountains in the outfield. You also got the Diamondbacks field with the pool in right field. I just love stadiums that have a unique feature that sets them apart from all the Major League Baseball parks. And not only does Oracle Park have that with the right field brick wall with McCovey Cove behind it, but it also is just a beautiful ballpark in general because of that brick wall. So I am very excited to announce that the San Francisco Giants are going to be my team of choice for the fantasy franchise. Now, the big reveal coming up next is who's on the team with me. Do I have any other community created players? Who's good? Who was my first round draft pick made by the computer? I didn't make these teams. I just let the computer pick out all the teams. So who is joining my community created player in San Francisco to bring the Giants to the World Series? Let's find out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go from 5 to 1, my top 5 players that are on the Giants that the team drafted me, so you can get a sense of who the top players are. And then we'll go through the pitching rotation and the starting lineup so you can get the full picture of who all is on my team as a whole, not just the top players. But I figured the top 5 player review might be a good way to introduce like who's going to be the key players as we make our playoff push. But the third things I want to point out right above me here is they have given me an average level team. I am the 14th best team out of in terms of their overall ratings that the league set out. The 14th overall team in the league. Strengths of mine. Number 1 is speed. I have the number 2 rated speed team in Major League Baseball. So we're going to be taking advantage of that. We're going to try to be stealing some bases on this team, which is definitely a far cry from what I'm doing with my Cardinals franchise. I'm last in the league in steals in my Cardinals franchise. Area of strength, also contact and defense. We are top 10 in both contact and defense, which is great for me because I love defensive-minded teams, which my Cardinals are the number 1 rated defensive team in MLB The Show. So I love my defense. Area of weakness, though, is going to be power. I am a contact speed team. I'm going. This is going back to speaking from a Cardinals fan. This is going back to the Cardinals in the '80s, where you had Ozzie Smith, you had Lou Brock, you had all those contact speed small ball guys trying to win a World Series. That's what this Giants team is going to be. We're going to be a team that's going for get them on, get them over, get them in kind of style. We are not going to be. We're not going to be loved by a lot of chicks because we are not going to hit the long ball. Let's just put it that way. And then my pitching is middle of the road. It's 16th overall, just below the halfway mark. So we have average pitching, above average contact defense, and one of the top speed teams in Major League Baseball. So without further ado, here comes the number 5 player on my roster. All right, so the number 5 player on my team is the ace of my staff, 26-year-old right-handed starting pitcher Luis Severino of the Yankees. 83 overall. He's got a 4-seam, 2-seam slider changeup as his repertoire. He is going to be the ace of my staff. He is the best starting pitcher that my team has drafted. And I'm really excited about this because even at 83 overall, he's 26 years old with an A potential. So he's going to be sticking around this team for a long time. He's going to be the ace of my staff for a long time to come. Let's hope his injuries in real life don't come across here as well. But looking forward to Luis leading my team as the ace of my staff. Number 4 is Mark Melancon, the closing pitcher from the San Diego Padres, 86 overall with a cutter, knuckle curve, 4-seamer, and a splitter. I am very much looking forward to having him at the back rotation. I love having a lockdown closer. Mark Melancon definitely fits that bill. At 36 years old, though, he's not going to be around this team for a long time. I am going to try to be doing multiple years on this franchise. I'm not just going to do a 1 season and done. I am going to try to do multiple seasons with this. So Mark Melancon is going to be fantastic in the back end of the rotation, but he's not going to be around for very long. So hopefully we get a couple of good seasons out of him and maybe even a championship or two before before we see him go. But definitely need that lockdown closer, and Mark Melancon is that for me. Number 3 is going to be my catcher. That is going to be Will Smith. Once again, another 26-year-old, a potential player. Definitely destroys right-handed pitching, which is interesting because he's a right-handed hitter. He is definitely not as strong at the plate against lefties as he is against righties, but he also has some decent defensive ability behind the plate. He's got a plus arm and then average everything else behind the plate. So he's going to be a solid rock behind the plate for us as our catcher. He does have a secondary position at third base, but I don't anticipate needing him to be over at third base really at all, unless maybe we have a young catcher that comes up and needs some playing time. But Will Smith, I'm looking forward to using him behind the plate. 86 overall, 26 years old, is only going to grow from here. Already a fantastic hitter against righties, like I mentioned. So I'm excited to have hit this bat in the middle of my lineup, especially against righties, which is what we're going to face mostly because you have more righties than lefties in Major League Baseball. Moving on to number 2. At number 2, this is going to make my Royals fans happy. We've got second baseman Whit Merrifield. 87 overall, can play pretty much every position you can think of except for pitcher, shortstop, and catcher. 32 years old. Definitely one of those, like I was mentioning at the beginning, we have a lot of contact on our team. This is definitely one of the players that is the epitome of that contact. He does have decent speed as well, 73 overall speed. He is going to be a rock-solid addition to our lineup. Second baseman, the second best player on our team at 87 overall. I'm very excited to see him at the top of our lineup, hitting for high average, hopefully getting on base quite a bit with some walks. 32 years old. He might be starting that decline as his age hits him. So hopefully we'll get some good years out of him before we see a major drop in his production. He still has a potential, so hopefully that means that he doesn't drop as fast. Who knows with MLB The Show how that works sometimes. But very excited to have Whit Merrifield top of my lineup. Contact, base hit, get on, get over, get in kind of guy. Whit Merrifield, my second baseman. And number 1 player, the man, the myth, the legend, Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be our starting shortstop on this fantasy franchise. I am so stoked to get a player like Fernando Tatis on my team. Because if you guys did watch me at the very beginning when I did my fantasy franchise back on MLB The Show 20, my top 2 players were Clayton Kershaw and Bryce Harper. And Bryce Harper's stats weren't really that up to par, so I really didn't have like an explosive hitter like I can get with Tatis. And not only that, he's got 94 speed and power. He's got speed, he's got power, he's got defense. He's the whole package. 22 years old, a potential, already at a 97. So he's going to hit 99 real quick. He's going to be the rock solid cornerstone of this franchise the entire time. I am not trading him. I am making sure he is staying. I'm re-signing to whatever he wants in terms of his contract, because I am not giving up Fernando Tatis, and he is going to be the face of this franchise. Fernando Tatis Jr. I am so excited that I ended up with the team that had Tatis. And like I said, I did not fix this at all. I just chose the team that my player was put on. I know I can't really prove that, but trust me, I didn't make any moves. I did the fantasy draft. My player was on this team as the starting first baseman. Fernando Tatis Jr. was at the top of that list. So we're going to have some fun with Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting third in our lineup. So without further ado, now that we've seen the top 5 players, let's take a look at the starting pitching rotation and the bullpen. All right, so like I mentioned, Luis Severino is going to be the ace of our staff at the top of the rotation. Number 2 pitcher is going to be Andrew Heaney of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Left-handed pitcher, 80 overall, 29 years old. Solid number 2 starter for me. Like we mentioned earlier, though, my pitching is not my strength. It is average pitching at best. So we're not going to have any crazy pitchers. We're just going to hopefully have a solid group of pitchers that will get the job done, and then our offense and speed and defense will carry us. Number 3 in the rotation, we have one of my favorite players of all time as a Cardinals fan. We've got Adam Wainwright. He is definitely not going to last past this year. He's probably retiring after this year, but 78 overall. He's got that nasty curveball sinker combination. Going to be, hopefully he stays solid throughout the year. Hopefully his ratings don't just plummet during the first season, because he's not really going to last past the first season. Hopefully that gives time some of our prospects to develop in time to take over his place next year. And we'll get to my prospects in a minute. But Adam Wainwright is going to be number 3. Number 4, we've got Jake Odorizzi. 31-year-old, 77 overall. Like I said, nothing super spectacular, but he is a solid piece of the rotation. He's not going to overpower anyone, so hopefully he can just we can just get the job done. And then rounding out the rotation, we have Herman Marquez, 76 overall, 26-year-old, B potential. So hopefully, as we go on to this guy will move up in the rotation from the 5 spot. Doing well in Colorado this year, despite having to pitch in Coors Field. But yeah, there's my rotation. And now moving on to the bullpen. Now, one thing I actually did not mention is that the base of this roster is Writing Rosters version 2 full minors rosters, which will include players like this. Hyunjung Yang. He is an international player who has not made it to who is not signed with a major league team. He is an international player who people might think he'll come over to the major leagues at some point. He is a real life person. He's on this roster as a free agent. And so the free agents were also put into this fantasy draft, and he is going to be my long reliever. He's got a 71 stamina as a relief pitcher, so 69 overall is not going to be a super utilized guy. Left-handed pitcher, though, so I do like that. Fastball, slider, changeup, curveball. But he's going to be my long reliever, and like I said, this roster includes a bunch of international free agents that could end up on a whole bunch of different rosters that aren't actually in the major leagues right now. So if you want to check out who those players are, definitely check out full minors roster through Writing Rosters in the roster vault. Moving on to the middle of my bullpen, we've got Tony Watson, 74 overall left-handed reliever with a 2-seamer changeup slider combination. We've also got Peter Fairbanks, 72 overall, 27 years old from the Rays organization. Lou Trevino, 29-year-old, 72 overall from the Oakland Athletics. A nice 5-pitch repertoire, which is not something you see out of relief pitchers, so hopefully that'll work with my advantage here. Tanner Rainey, 71 overall, 28 years old from the Washington Nationals organization. Jose Alvarado is going to be one of my setup men. He is an 81 overall left-handed pitcher. He's going to be the main left-handed specialist to help get to the 7th and 8th inning batters. Like basically, if 7th or 8th inning, if I've got a small lead and a few left-handed hitters are coming up, this guy's going to be the one that comes in. And then we've got Mike Mayers. He's going to be on the right-hand side of the setup guy, 76 overall, 29 years old. So same situation as Alvarado. If I've got a small lead, I'm going to bring in Mayers if there's a bunch of right-handed hitters coming up. And then, as we mentioned, the number 4 player on my roster, Mark Melanson, is my closer. So that is the bullpen for the San Francisco Giants. And now let's take a look at the starting lineup. Leading off and playing second base, we've got Whit Merrifield. We've already mentioned him. He is the number 2 player on my roster, so no question he was going to be a player at the top of the lineup. But he will be playing second base and hitting leadoff for us with all that contact. He doesn't have the fastest speed in the world, but he can definitely put pressure on at the top of the lineup with the speed that he does have. He's not going to be like a 30, 40 steal guy, but he's definitely going to get his fair share of steals. Batting second and playing third base is Jeimer Candelario of the Detroit Tigers. He is definitely a better hitter against left-handed hitters. As you can see, he's got 94 contact against lefties, but he's still got solid numbers overall. In my second position in my lineup, I'd like to try to get guys that'll get on base. So he's got a good amount of discipline, 70 discipline. So hopefully that'll translate into walks and getting on base ahead of batting third. You know him, you love him. Fernando Tatis Jr. Definitely going to be the third hitter in my lineup. There's no question about that. Best hitter, speed, contact, power. He's got it all. He's definitely going to be hitting third in my lineup. Batting fourth is going to be Will Smith, especially against right-handed pitching. He's got that 90 overall power, which is actually more power against righties than Fernando Tatis. So he is going to be hitting fourth in my lineup. Batting fifth is Jorge Soler, another Royal joining Whit Merrifield. He's got that power. He's a little bit lacking in the contact area, so he's going to be like the main power threat that kind of goes against the team philosophy of being a contact and speed, because he's got power, but he doesn't have speed or contact. He is going to be our right fielder. He's got pretty good arm out there. He's not the best defensively. This is kind of the player that just goes against all my entire team tendencies, but Jorge Soler is going to be my right fielder. And then batting sixth is myself, first baseman Andrew Alexander. Yes, that is my real name. And yes, this is the position I played when growing up and playing baseball in high school. I'm a lefty throwing, bat lefty. So I was limited to the positions that a left-handed player could play, which is pitcher, first base, and outfield. And those are the positions I played when I was in high school. My favorite position to play was first base, and followed closely by pitcher, and then the outfield. I wasn't really a fan of the outfield, as anyone can probably imagine. But so I made myself as a first baseman. I tried to model myself after kind of like what my tendency was as a player growing up. I was a contact hitter with like kind of doubles power, as you could say. I only hit like one career home run ever. But I made myself a contact hitter more so than a power hitter, also with plus defense. Not a very good arm. I didn't have a very strong arm. I was just better at catching the ball as opposed to throwing the ball. And when I was a pitcher, I was a finesse, movement, curveball, slider, changeup pitcher. Then I was not a power pitcher at all. I wasn't even good enough to make it to college, so don't read into this too much. This is just me, like what I see myself if I was a player in Major League Baseball, what my tendencies would be. I also, like, my best stat, as you can see, is vision. I did have good plate vision. I was very good at drawing walks as well. This is me, my number, batting 6th in the lineup. Batting 7th, left fielder Austin Hayes from the Baltimore Orioles. Average across the board, plus defense. He's going to be a solid hitter. He's not going to surprise you with anything, but he's definitely going to get it done on the defensive side. I love the look of this player. He's got like really good. He's got good hitting stats all around. Nothing all around the same level. He's got plus defense. He's got plus speed. Not like a speedster kind of thing, but he's got more than above average speed. So I'm excited to see. And he's only 25 years old with peak potential, so he can only grow from here. Batting 8th. This is my designated hitter against righties specifically. It's Josh Naylor. He is not going to be a starter in terms of being in the field, but he is definitely going to be my designated hitter against righties. He is a left-handed hitter. He can hit the ball very well against righties, but that's about all he can do. He's got a good arm, but he doesn't have a lot of accuracy on his throws. And then batting 9th. Sorry. Yeah, batting 9th, Nico Goodrum. I'm actually putting him in center field. As you can see, he can play any position on the infield and outfield except for catcher and pitcher. And since I've got Fernando Tatis at short, I've got Whit Merrifield at second, I figured I don't really have a good center fielder. So let's put Nico in center. He's got really good fielding stats. He's got 87 fielding, 90 reaction, and 75 speed. So I figure he's going to be a really good center fielder, even if it is his secondary position. But he's also batting at the bottom of the lineup because he doesn't have the best hitting attributes. And I also like a little bit of speed at the bottom of the lineup when it turns over back to the top of the lineup, and he's definitely got that. He's got one of the higher speeds on the team at 75 overall. But yeah, there is my starting lineup 1 to 9. We've got Merrifield, Candelario, Tatis, Smith, Soler, Alexander, Hayes, Naylor, Goodrum, and back to the top of the lineup with Merrifield. Moving on to my bench, I just want to point out the player that is going to be the designated hitter against lefties, and that is left fielder Eli White. He doesn't have really the hitting stats that you would really want, but he's better against lefties than Josh Naylor in terms of his hitting attributes, and he's got the fastest speed on the team at 94 overall. So I put him batting 9th against lefties just to see if he can do one of those, like, get some contact, float the ball out there, or get some infield hits, or maybe some bunt singles, that kind of thing. He is not going to be a main piece, but coming off the bench with that speed, he's got a little bit of. He looks like he can do a little bit of success against lefties because he's definitely got better attributes than Josh Naylor against lefties. We'll see what Eli White can do. Maybe one of the things we'll do in the season is try to target a better designated hitter or bench bat against lefties. So. But there's Eli White. We've got center fielder Luis Basabe. I hope I pronounced that correct. He's got a little bit of contact under him. Once again, got a lot of speed. Like I said, this is the team with the number 2 rated speed across all of baseball. But he is my main backup outfielder at 74 overall. Then we've got our backup catcher, John Ryan Murphy, who's actually 76 overall. So pretty good. I would put him at the designated hitter against lefties if for the fact that I didn't have another catcher that I could put in if for some reason Will Smith got injured or something like that. But he will get some starts against left-handed pitching. As you can see, his contact and power against left-handed pitching is pretty darn good. And he's also got fantastic defensive stats. Look at he's got 82 fielding. He's got 90 block, which is fantastic for a catcher. in the 70s with arm accuracy and reaction. So he is a plus defensive catcher with a little bit of pop against left-handed pitching. So he will definitely see some playing time. He's not going to be one of those catchers that just sits to the bench all day, especially against lefties. He might get more starts than normal because Will Smith does apparently struggle against lefties. So keep an eye out for John Ryan Murphy. He might be one of my sleeper impact players this season. Then we've got another one of those international players. We've got Hoi Jun Park at second base, can also play shortstop. So what will most likely happen is if Tatis ever needs a day off, we'll slide with Merrifield or Nico Goodrum to shortstop, and we'll put Park at second base and put either Merrifield or Goodrum out in center field. Average defender, average hitter. He's just pretty much average across the board. He's a left-handed hitter, 25 years old, see potential, so he's not going to get much better than this. But he's definitely like one of those average players across the board that you like to see as a role player off your bench. All right, so the next thing I want to show you guys is, since this is going to be a franchise that spans multiple years, I want to show you guys some of the prospects that I've got that will make an impact on the major leagues here in the next couple of years. So in the minor leagues, I'm going to go through each position and highlight a player or two that I think is going to make an impact in the future. For starting pitchers, the guy I want to highlight is Adrian Morjan from the Padres organization. He is a left-handed pitcher, 22 years old, A potential, already at a 68 overall. This is the guy I'm hoping will be good enough for the major leagues when Adam Wainwright retires. And at A potential, 22 years old, already at a 68, I believe he's going to be ready next season to make the jump to the major leagues, which I'm assuming Adam Wainwright's going to retire after the season, but you never know. But Wainwright's only on a one-year contract anyway, so he might just not even extend an offer to him. We'll see. But Adrian Morjan is definitely a pitcher I am looking forward to having on the roster in the future, as well as, let's see, Joe Ryan. I don't know if this is a real player or not because he doesn't have a picture or anything like that. He might be, but he might be potentially someone we can put at the back end of the rotation. 24 years old, B potential. We'll see. Relief pitchers, not really a lot to show off here. And closer are going to be the main positions that we're going to have to look to upgrade as we go into this franchise. Catcher, the only one to really highlight is Jake Rogers, but he's already 26 years old, 70 overall, B potential. So this is also going to be something that we're going to have to draft for. But it's not a huge need because Will Smith is 26 years old, so he's going to be behind the plate for a while. So we'll see what happens there. First baseman, nothing really to highlight. Maybe Lewin Diaz makes a case to crack the roster as like a designated hitter or something like that. But we've got myself at 20 years old, A potential, 77 overall for a long time, so I'm not really worried about first base. Second base, not really anything to speak of. Third base, once again, C's across the board. So, I mean, Chester Cuthbert could be like a role player in the future as like the backup corner infielder. I almost put him on the major league roster, but I didn't really have a spot for him. But he's definitely going to be one of the first people I call up if we have an injury to one of our corner infielders like Candelario or Alexander. So we'll see where Cuthbert comes into play. All right, now here's the position. This kind of made me upset when I saw what the CPU drafted for me, because of the fact that the number 1 overall pick was Fernando Tatis Jr., 22 years old, A potential, 97 overall already. You would think that we really wouldn't need to focus on shortstops in this draft, but I have Geraldo Perdomo and Bryce Turang in my minor league system. Both of them 20 years old, both of them A potential, considered some of the top prospect catchers in Major League Baseball. And I'm going to need to find a spot for them because Tatis ain't moving. So looking at Perdomo, his secondary position is second base. And then Turang also has a secondary position of second base. So what I'm thinking is, this might be like a few years down the road, because who knows when Perdomo and Turang are going to be ready for the majors. But what I'm thinking is Tatis has a secondary position of third base. So maybe what I'll do is when Candelario's contract runs out, I move Tatis over to third, bring up either Perdomo or Turang to take over at shortstop, and maybe if we still have Whit Merrifield at the time, we move Whit Merrifield back to the outfield. Maybe. I don't know. Depends on what my outfield looks like at that point. Because maybe what I could do is move Merrifield to the outfield, put one of these two guys at second base, make Soler my designated hitter at that point, keep Goodrum in center field, maybe put Whit Merrifield in right, Who knows? But I'm going to have a lot of tough decisions to make with Perdomo and Terang because they're going to be good in a few years. Already plus defenders for sure. But I'm going to have to figure out how to fit Terang, Perdomo, and Tatis all in my lineup at once. Plus, you got Nico Goodrum, who is a primary shortstop, but I'm using him in the outfield. So that's going to be something interesting to keep track of as we go along here. Left field is definitely going to be an area of focus in my draft because we got Eli White, 70 overall, but he's only C potential. And then we got a D potential and a C potential, 64 and 60 overall. So we need some left fielders. Center field. This is where I'm a little bit more excited though, because this might actually throw a wrench into my whole plan to put Goodrum and Merrifield in the outfield. Is I've got Vidal Brujan, or however you pronounce. If I'm butchering these pronunciations, please tell me in the comments. We've got Vidal Brujan, a potential 21-year-old prospect from the Rays system. He got a couple of at bats earlier this season, so hopefully he can do something for them. But he is like technically tied for my best center fielder on my roster with 3 other players at 67 overall, but I didn't want to throw him into the mix as my starting center fielder right away because he still is 67 overall. He's got A potential. I want him to get work at AAA before I call him up. That's why I decided to put Goodrum in center field instead of Brujan. And then I've got Basabe there on the bench to lock things down before Brujan is ready to be called up. And then we also got Elio Ramos as well as in center field. I might move him to a corner outfield spot because he doesn't have as good of a defensive upside as Brujan does. But we've got 2 A potential center fielders that we're going to be able to use in the future. And then right field, we've got a lot of right fielders, but most of them are C potential. Josh Naylor is a B potential player, so maybe we'll see some of those splits against left-handed pitching go up a little bit, maybe. I don't know. But then we also got Harold Ramirez, who is really good contact hitter. We might see him in the majors this season with injuries and stuff like, or if people struggle to hit. I might think about moving Ramirez up instead of Eli White, but we'll see. We'll see what happens from there. It was between Ramirez and White as to who I was going to put on my bench in the major league level, and it might flip back and forth depending on how White performs. But we've got Harold Ramirez that could be called up. He's not going to get much better than a 69 overall, maybe 74 at the best. The B potential, maybe high 70s, but we'll see. But that is the prospects in the farm system for the San Francisco Giants. A lot of excitement with the shortstop and the center field position. There's just going to be a question of who do we move away from at the major league level once those guys are ready, and where are we going to put all those guys, because we got 2 shortstops and 2 center fielders that are going to be making an impact with the major league roster sometime soon. So with that, that's going to wrap up the first episode of the fantasy franchise here on my YouTube channel. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to make sure you get the notifications for when I launch these videos, because like I mentioned, none of this stuff you're going to be able to see on my Twitch channel. Speaking of, if you are interested in checking out my Birds on the Bat 162 game franchise, make sure you check out my recap videos on that here on the YouTube channel, as well as come out to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/AndrewPays, where I play all 162 of my games. Although it's going to take me a while because I'm still in the first month of the season and it's already July in real life. It's going to take me a while, but hey, we're going to keep chugging along. We're going to get all 162 in and see if maybe we even make the playoffs. So definitely check out my Twitch channel if you want a community creative player made for yourself to be added to all of this, because I will still add players as we go along and also increase the attributes of these players as we go along. Make sure to come into my Twitch channel, because that's where people earn the ability to do that through the Twitch channel points as well. Coming up in the next episode, we will do opening day weekend. I guess I should explain to you how this series is going to work, because I ain't playing all 162 games on this franchise. That's just be way too much for me. So what I'm going to do is, let's take a look at the calendar here. I'm going to be playing the first game of every series. So, for example, the first series of the year is opening day against Seattle on Thursday, April 1st. I will play the first game of that series and then simulate the other 2. Then I'll play the first game of the San Diego Padres series, simulate the other 2. And so what the franchise videos are going to be is just going to be some highlights from those games, as well as updates on where the record is at the time of that recording. So for episode 2, you'll see me play the Seattle series, you'll see me play the game in the San Diego series, and you'll see how I did against the other 2. Maybe we'll throw in Colorado, just depends on how many games I want to throw in there. So each episode is going to be some gameplay, some roster moves if we have them. So basically just give an update all around of where we are at that time. I'll make sure to keep you up to date on all of the roster moves I make, any injuries that happen, all the box scores. So you can keep track with me step by step as we go through this season. If you want to know where some of your favorite players ended up, what teams they're on, leave a comment down below asking, hey, where did Bryce Harper end up? Where did Mike Trout end up? What team is Mike Trout on? That'll be an interesting question. Make sure you drop a comment below asking, hey, where did so-and-so end up? And I will let you guys know where those players end up. I might even just highlight a few of them in my next video. So make sure you drop a comment down below so I can get those answers to you guys in the next video. This has been the first episode of my fantasy franchise with community-created players highlighted by Whit Merrifield, Luis Severino, and Fernando Tatis Jr. And until next time, guys, stay blessed and take care. Make sure you drop a comment. Blah. The birds on the bat. No, it hasn't. It has not been the birds on the bat franchise. This is my fantasy franchise. I meant to do that in full screen. Whoops.